Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. In this video I'm going to talk about something that I probably haven't talked about quite enough on this channel now that I think about it. Take a look at this headline from Daily Hodl. Ripple says XRP-based xRapid could trigger $10 trillion in innovation. And there are a couple pieces that came out over the last couple days on this topic, so I'm going to be digging into that. I've also got an update for you on Swell, the Ripple Swell conference. And the last piece that I'm going to cover in this video I found fascinating. This is from ambcrypto.com, and it's titled Stablecoin Regulations Would Need to Eliminate Risks Regarding Liquidity of Underlying Assets, Claims IMF. And I've always found stablecoins fascinating because, well, I think it's fair to say there can be use for them, certainly. They're centralized too, because there's an underlying asset and somebody has to hold the asset. So I find conceptually the whole thing quite fascinating. It's very different than a cryptocurrency, not even just technologically, but just the way it's valued in open markets when you can buy and sell an asset like XRP, for example, on cryptocurrency exchanges. So I'm going to be getting into that a bit. Before we get going here, though, if you would please delicately tap that like button. And if you're a fan of Ripple and XRP, go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. It's party time here all the time. All right, let's dig into the first piece here. You know what I'm actually going to do, though? I pulled up two different articles on the same topic. I'm not going to really run through this one. Reason being, it was kind of like a rehash of the original one from the other day. And so check this out. There was, it has to do a lot with this guy right here, Ripple employee Navin Gupta, who I've highlighted on the channel in the past. And he's over in India, right? And so on his Twitter page, it says, blockchain enthusiast, cool dad, art of living, meditation, teacher. And so he retweeted a tweet from Ripple, which included information from him about it. And so Ripple's tweet stated, people are looking at making things faster in their existing correspondent bank network, but nobody is taking away the need for pre-funded accounts. And this is at Navin Blockchain discusses how Ripple is solving the liquidity problem at Sibos 2019. And I actually originally saw this from XRP Research Center, so it didn't tag me in it, but I just wanted to give a shout out because that's the first place I saw it. So here's the piece from gtreview.com. Ripple, Swift's real-time payments don't solve U.S. $10 trillion liquidity problem. Right? Swift may be moving towards real-time payments, but it does not solve the problem that banks today have trillions of dollars parked in prepaid Nostro accounts around the world. That's according to Navin Gupta, Managing Director for Southeast Asia at MENA at Ripple, and who was speaking today at Sibos, a financial services event hosted by Swift. And I still get a kick out of the fact that Ripple and R3, both building on top of the XRP ledger, both of them are at Sibos, which is the conference that Swift hosts. I love that. You can't imagine that they'd enjoy that too much, but it's entertaining to me. Anyway, responding to an audience question about whether there is still a value proposition for Ripple, a provider of blockchain-based payments, in light of Swift's work to bring real-time payments to the market, Gupta said, quote, people are looking at making things faster in their existing correspondent bank network, but nobody is taking away the need for pre-funded accounts. That's the fundamental value proposition that we are discussing today. And then the piece continues, the question about Swift's ability to innovate has been subject to debate for years. Swift, a bank-owned network founded in 1973. I need to remember that because on this channel I can never remember. I cite it all the time. How long has Swift been around? Is it the 60s or 70s? 1973. I'm going to do my best to remember that. So founded in 1973 is the system that most banks use for their cross-border payments today. The challenge for Swift, however, is that it is only a messaging system. It means bank members can use Swift to make payment orders, but the actual transfer of funds is made from a pre-funded Nostro account that a bank has with a local correspondent bank. And this is the point that I make. I feel like lately I've made it a fair number of times. It's simply that Swift does not have a settlement solution. That's the part that xRapid solves. So even if they speed up their messaging through their GPI technology, super duper, I'm sure it is a better customer experience because the messaging, I'll trust that it's better, and their trials that they've been running with and everything, it's super duper. There is no solution, period, for settlement, and the only solution that humans have ever come up with, again, is utilizing a cryptocurrency as a bridge currency. And the reason that works, the reason that's important, and also the reason that a stablecoin cannot do this is because XRP removes the need for trust. Because the only thing you have to trust in is that cryptography works. That's it. Trust that the ledger works. Trust in cryptography. But not individuals backing it, because there are not individuals backing XRP. It has an open market value. And it should, because businesses need it to operate. Quite literally. It's amazing stuff here, and most of the world doesn't understand any of this. It's the coolest thing here. But Swift doesn't have a solution. So either, they're going to, as time passes, lose more and more market share because Ripple's technology, quite frankly, is better, and they're the only ones with a solution as it pertains especially to high-friction corridors when it comes to settlement. Either they're going to just allow their market share to erode, or they're going to, at some point, implement a similar solution, whether it uses XRP or some other cryptocurrency that is decentralized and is not backed by anything. And unless they do that, they're not going to be able to compete. And XRP is perfectly positioned for this, and given that Ripple's building out the liquidity pools for this, even if Swift never used xRapid literally, if they just built something that you could tap into the XRP ledger, it would just be magical. Well, for us as holders, I'm sure, of XRP, and also good for Swift, because maybe they'd stop losing their market share. And so, for me, I don't care what payments company it wins the day if they're both, if they say there were two competitors and they both utilize XRP. I don't care who wins. I just want XRP use. That's what really matters, because understand us, and you know this, I'm sure you do, unless you're brand new, in which case check this out. If you hold XRP, it doesn't give you any sort of special ownership over Ripple. It's not like you bought into Ripple, the company. It's completely unrelated to that. And so to me, given that that's true, I just want XRP to get used, because that will inspire confidence long term in it, I believe. Not financial advice, no financial background here, but that is firmly what I believe here. All right, and then the piece continues. Swift has attempted to innovate its offering, for example, by releasing its Global Payment Innovation, GPI, service, which guarantees payment within 24 hours, as well as launching real-time payments through domestic payment networks. However, Gupta argued such improvements in speed don't change the fundamentals of the correspondent banking system, which is that banks need to hold capital in nostro accounts. He referred to this as the liquidity problem, adding that it is a misconception that this will be addressed simply because current initiatives are making payments instant. And here's another quote. Our guess is that there is about US $5 to $10 trillion that is stuck in pre-funded accounts around the world. This is money which the originating bank has to keep with the beneficiary institution to be able to make the payouts. If this United States $5 to $10 trillion were to be redeployed back into the home economies, can you imagine what effect it can have? When we speak with central banks, they love it. And then the piece continues. Gupta made the comments as he was presenting Ripple's cross-border payment solution xRapid in the Innovation Theater at Sibos. xRapid, which was made commercially available in October last year, uses cryptocurrency, or a digital asset as Ripple likes to call it, to enable banks to source on-demand liquidity in a foreign country. It means banks are not required to have correspondent relations and hold capital in nostro accounts. Specifically, xRapid uses XRP, a cryptocurrency created by Ripple. That part's not true, but they're not in the world of crypto. I don't believe that they're just trying to put foot out there. It's a common misconception among those in media that aren't specifically crypto-related. So I'll give them a pass on that. But anyway, created by Ripple as a bridge between fiat currencies. Using xRapid, a U.S. bank, for example, transfers dollars into XRP via an exchange and sends the XRP to an exchange in, say, Mexico. On the other end, the XRP is then converted into pesos. It all happens within minutes and at a lower cost than traditional methods, which typically see similar transfers take days and incur high foreign exchange fees. And so Ripple's xRapid is today used by more than 20 financial institutions. This is compared to the approximately 200 users of its first product, xCurrent. While xCurrent is also based on blockchain technology, it is, like Swift, a payment messaging system only. Okay, and one of the key differentiators between the legacy Swift system versus xCurrent, though, xCurrent, well, yes, it's true. It's just the messaging system, and that's why I think it's reasonable. It's not exactly the same, of course, but it's reasonable when people like to compare the legacy Swift system to xCurrent. But xCurrent has bi-directional messaging, whereas traditionally Swift, it's just unidirectional messaging. It's like pushing this payment out, and let's just hope it goes through, because we have no way to check that within reason. So that's a very key difference. And the piece continues. It's not uncommon for Ripple to criticize Swift. After all, the technology startup is seen as Swift's biggest blockchain rival because it is selling its solution directly to banks. In August of last year, Ripple's director of joint venture partnership, Emi Yoshikawa, claimed that Swift's GPI is just a marginal improvement on very old architecture. It followed Ripple's decision 2 years ago to host a rival event to Sibos, which it called Swell, at the same time in the same city, Toronto, which I love, by the way. That's a little jab at him right there, right? At the time, Ripple was accused of aggressively hijacking the Swift event, with one media describing Swell as a, quote, Sibos killer. A fleet of Ripple-branded cars were parked outside the Sibos venue throughout the week, ready to ferry people back and forth between the two events. You have to love that, right? I mean, come on. As an XRP holder, I just appreciate that. It's kind of comical, right? More recently, however, Ripple has adopted a more diplomatic tone towards Swift. Speaking to GTR in an on-stage interview at the Blockchain Summit in London in June, Ripple's head of global banking, Marjan Delatin, who has previously worked for Swift, said the two are not competitors but can be very complementary. Then here's a quote. "We are not replacing Swift, as Swift has its own value," she said. And, there are quotes from Ripple employees prior to that, and maybe they've just changed the way that they want to approach this, but I can't, God, I wish I could remember who it is. There's some Ripple employee, I think overseas, who said something along the lines of, this is more of an all or nothing thing. We're either going to completely replace Swift or we're going to catastrophically fail. I'm paraphrasing. It was something to that effect. And in reading through that, it showed the way in which it was stated. It showed confidence is more of a bullish statement, despite the catastrophic failing part of it if it really doesn't pan out. But the sense of all or nothing, there was the sense of optimism by who I really wish I could remember who stated that. But in reading that initially, and that was a while back, probably over a year ago, I remember when I heard that and I read that somewhere, and I just thought to myself, I'm not so sure if it is the case that it's an all or nothing thing, because different people want different things and have existing relationships with people which could trump certain things. Some people are more complacent when it comes to technological innovation. And so I don't know that Ripple would ever get 100% share, especially in terms of payments. If Swift GPI is that much better compared to traditionally how Swift is operated, maybe they'd be able to maintain some sort of market share in, I'd say, like a lower friction corridors where settlement is not as big of an issue. But I understand in the correspondent banking system, the more, because it's just a chain of bilateral banking relationships, so the more intermediaries, the more friction. And so again, if it's just from one institution to another and the banks know each other, okay, it doesn't solve the problem of Nostro, those funds just being tied up. But if it's not that much friction, people will have less of an incentive to jump ship. So I don't know for sure that it's going to be an all or nothing. And the messaging here seems to have changed. Because I remember reading this somewhat recently. I think I covered it on the channel when it happened, this quote from Marjan Delatin. And again, she says, "We are not replacing Swift, as Swift has its own value," she said. So you can take it for what it's worth, and that's more in line with what I always thought sounded a little bit more reasonable, but we'll just have to see how things unfold. And then the piece wraps up here. "The fact that Ripple is even present at Sibos this year might be a further indication that the Ripple-Swift relationship is warming up." When asked by GTR what prompted Ripple to change its approach and take part in Sibos, with an exhibition stand as well as a speaking slot in the formal program, Gupta declined to answer, saying, "That's not the subject for the day." So there you go, no soup for you. Cool article, though, right? I think that's awesome. Check out this next piece. This is from the XRP Daily. This is Alex Cobb's website, and I'm going to try and be brief with this one. But it's titled, "The Massive Bank to be Speaking at Ripple's Swell, According to Swell Website Update." It says, "Today we have some incredible news regarding Ripple's annual event known as Swell. Just recently, the Swell website has been updated and revealed a new speaker at the event alongside Ambassador Chan Heng, Chi, Dr. Raghuram Rajan, I'm doing my best with these names, former governor of the Reserve Bank of India and distinguished professor of finance at the University of Chicago, and Kamal Khodar, CEO of Bcash. Keep in mind that Swell is on November 7th and 8th of this year, so it's not far away. The new speaker will be Piyush Gupta, who is the CEO of DBS Group, and I might as well mention, yes, they are a Ripple client. So far, we only know of 4 speakers who will be at Swell event, and they are already massive people in the financial industry, so I can't wait to see who else will be speaking at the event. And it goes on to talk about how DBS is a multinational bank, over 24,000 employees. It states here they're worth over $333 billion in terms of their assets there. So very cool stuff there. And I hope there's lots of video from Swell, because I very much look forward to covering it. And if there's video associated with it, to me, it's just more engaging. So let's hope there's lots of... There was last year when Bill Clinton was speaking. I remember that. Last piece here. This from AMB Crypto. Stable coin regulations would need to eliminate risks regarding liquidity of underlying assets, claims IMF. As central banks across the world start looking into cryptocurrencies and DLT to see how feasible a fiat-backed digital currency would be, the IMF, International Monetary Fund, has now entered the conversation as well, publishing a blog post exploring the advantages of a privately issued stablecoin, one which is backed by central bank reserves. The biggest problem governments are likely to face with such a plan is their lack of expertise with regards to intuitively designed and efficient platforms. And while central banks are not likely to approve a fiat-backed digital currency, an offering like USDC or Facebook's Libra could simply be more efficient. The IMF says that regulations will need to eliminate risks regarding liquidity of the underlying assets, and that they should be protected from other creditors if the stablecoin provider goes bankrupt. Though their proposed CBDC model would require absolute centralization, it would allow the private sector to focus more on innovation, while central banks focus on providing trust and efficiency, thus integrating the private sector with trust in central authorities. In a world of mostly centralized stablecoins, DAI is currently the only decentralized stablecoin with a reasonable adoption rate. More alternatives are essential in order to prevent payments via stablecoins from becoming redundant. And what the heck does a decentralized stablecoin look like? I'm going to have to research that DAI. I believe I've heard it before, but conceptually, just the idea of a decentralized stablecoin, how does that work? I literally don't know, but I've never pretend to know everything, so I'm always learning. So if you're hopefully I'm not the only one, right? But literally, so if it's a stable coin, if it's decentralized, it can't be backed by something, so how is it stable? I fundamentally don't know the answer. If I can research that and find an easy answer, I'm going to report on that sooner than later, because I'm quite genuinely curious about that. But I'm going to wrap up this video. It's going to go on too long otherwise. But I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!